That's right, Edith. Yes, ma'am. Now, you'd better fetch the eyes quiet. Oh, yes, ma'am. Did you manage to get the eyes out of those little tin trays? Yes, ma'am. And you filled the little trays up with water again? I had a bit of a struggle, but it's all right. Very good, Edith. You're making giant strides. Madam Alcati, Mrs. Bradman and I will have our coffee in here after dinner. Dr. Bradman and Mr. Condamine will have theirs in the dining room. Is that quite clear? Yes, ma'am. And Edith, when you're serving dinner, please try to do it calmly and methodically. Yes, ma'am. As you're not in the Navy, it is unnecessary to do everything at the double. Yes, very good, ma'am. Now, go and get the ice. Not at a run, Edith. Yes, ma'am.
No sign of the advancing hordes?
Not yet.
No eyes?
It's coming. I've been trying to discourage Edith from being so fleet of foot. You mustn't mind if everything is a little slow motion tonight.
I shall welcome it. The past few days have been extremely agitating. What do you suppose induced Agnes to leave us and go and get married?
The reason was becoming increasingly obvious, dear.
Yes, but in these days, nobody thinks anything of that sort of thing. She could have popped it to the cottage hospital, had it, and popped out again.
The social life would have been seriously undermined.
We must keep Edith in the house more.
Sorry.
Please, just like that. Quite like that. Oh, I left my cigarette case in my dressing table. Would you get it for me?
Yes, sir.
There now.
You took her by surprise.
A dry martini, I think. Don't you?
Yes, darling. I expect Madame Alcati will want something sweeter.
We'll have this one for ourselves, anyhow.
Oh, dear.
What's the matter?
I have a feeling that this evening is going to be awful.
It'll probably be funny. Not awful.
You must promise not to catch my eye. If I giggle, and I'm very likely to, it'll ruin everything.
But you mustn't. You must be dead serious, and if possible, a little intense. We can't hurt the old girl's feelings, however funny she is.
But neither Bradman's done. He's as skeptical as we are. He'll probably say the most dreadful things.
Well, I've warned him. There must be more than 3 people, and he could have had the vicar and his wife, because A, they're dreary, and B, they probably wouldn't have put it at all. Have been Bradman's. Oh! Thank you, Edith.
Yes, sir.
Steady does it.
Yes, sir.
We might make her walk about with a book on her head like they do in botany lessons. Here, try this.
Lovely. Dry as a bone.
To the unseen.
I must say, that is a wonderful title.
If this evening's a success, I shall start on the first draft tomorrow.
How extraordinary it is.
What?
Oh, I don't know. We were at the beginning of something. It gives me an odd feeling.
Do you remember how I got the idea for the light was out?
Suddenly seeing that haggard, frazzled woman in the hotel at the Biarras. Of course I remember. We sat up half the night talking about it.
She certainly came in very handy. I wonder who she was.
Or if she ever knew. Well, I mean, ever recognized that description of herself. Poor thing. Here's to her, anyhow.
Darling, have another.
Darling, that's awfully strong.
Never mind.
You so dear to be a help to you when you were thinking something out, I mean.
Every now and then, when she concentrated. But she didn't concentrate very often.
I do wish I'd known her.
I wonder if you would have liked her.
Oh, I'm sure I should have. As you talk of her, she sounds enchanting. Yes, I'm sure I should have liked her because, you know, I've never for an instant felt in the least jealous of her. That's a good sign.
Well, dear.
Does it still hurt? What do you think, Jack?
No, not really. Sometimes I almost wish it did. I feel I'm guilty.
I wonder if I died before you'd grown tired of me, you'd forget me so soon.
What a horrible thing to say.
Oh, I think it's interesting.
Well, to begin with, I haven't forgotten Elvira. I remember her very distinctly indeed. I remember how fascinating she was, how maddening. I remember how badly she played all the games, how cross she got when she didn't win. I remember her gay charm when she achieved her own way or something, and her extreme acidity when she didn't. I remember her physical attractiveness, which was tremendous, and her spiritual integrity, which was nil.
You can't remember something that was nil.
I remember how morally untidy she was.
Was she more physically attractive than I am?
That was a very tiresome question, dear, and fully deserves the wrong answer.
You really are very sweet.
Thank you.
And a little naive, too.
Why?
Because you imagine that I mind about Elvira being more physically attractive than I am.
I should have thought any woman would mind, if it were true. Perhaps an old-fashioned my view of female psychology.
Not exactly old-fashioned, just a bit didactic.
How do you mean?
It's didactic to attribute to one type the defect of another type. For instance, because you know perfectly well that Elvira would mind terribly if you found another woman more physically attractive than she was, it doesn't necessarily follow that I should. Elvira was a more physical person than I am. I'm certain of that. It's all a question of degree.
I love you, my love.
I know you do. But not the wildest stretch of imagination could describe it as the first fine, careless rapture.
Would you like it to be?
Good God, no.
Wasn't that a shade too vehement?
We're neither of us adolescent charmers. We've neither of us led exactly prim lives, haven't we? We've both been married before. Careless rapture at this stage would be incongruous and embarrassing.
I hope I haven't been in any way a disappointment, dear.
Don't be so idiotic.
After all, your first husband was a great deal older than you, wasn't he? I shouldn't like you to think that you missed out all along the line.
There are moments, Charles, when you go too far.
Sorry, darling.
And as far as waspish female psychology goes, there's a rather strong vein of it in you.
I've heard that said about Julius Caesar.
Julius Caesar was neither here nor there.
He may be, for all we know. We'll ask him out of my party.
Well, very irritating when you're determined to be witty at all costs. Almost supercilious.
That's exactly what Elvira used to say.
I'm not at all surprised. I never imagined, physically triumphant as she was, that she was entirely lacking in perception.
Darling Ruth,
There you go again.
as I think I mentioned before, I love you, my love.
Poor Vera.
Didn't that light comradely kiss mollify you at all?
You're very annoying. You know you are. When I said poor Elvira, it came from the heart. You must have bewildered her so horribly.
Don't I ever bewilder you at all?
Never for an instant. I know every trick.
Well, all I can say is we'd better get a divorce immediately.
There's my glass down. There we go.
She certainly had a great talent for living. It's a pity that she died so young.
Oh, Vera.
That remark is getting monotonous.
Poor Charles, then.
That's better.
And later on, poor Ruth, I expect.
You have no faith, Ruth. I really do think you should have a little more faith.
I shall strain every nerve.
Life without faith is an arid business.
How beautifully you put things, dear.
I aim to please.
I wonder if I died, how long it would be before you married again.
You won't die. You're not the dying sort.
I was Elvira.
Oh, yes, she was. Now that I look back on it, she had a certain ethereal, not quite of this world quality. Nobody can call you even remotely ethereal.
Nonsense! She was of the earth. Earthy.
Well, she is now, anyhow.
You know that's the kind of observation that shocks people.
It's discouraging to think how many people are shocked by honesty and how few by deceit.
Write that down, we might forget it.
You underrate me.
It was a question of bad taste more than of honesty.
I was devoted to her, yeah. We were married for 5 years. She died. I missed her very much. That was 7 years ago. I have now to her, my life. Isn't above the roof.
Admirable. But if tragedy should darken our lives, then I still say with prophetic foreboding, poor Ruth.
Oh, that's probably the Rabbits.
It might be Madame Arcati.
No, she'll come on her bicycle. She goes everywhere on her bicycle.
It really is very spirited of the old girl.
Shall I go, or shall let Edith have her play?
Wait a minute and see what happens.
Perhaps she didn't hear.
She's probably on one knee, pre-sprinting position, waiting for Cook to open the kitchen door.
Steady, Edith!
Sorry, Sam! Dr. and Mrs. Brown.
course not. Madame Arcati isn't here yet.
That must have been her because coming downhill. Instead of foot.
Then she won't be long. I'm so glad you could come.
We've been looking for quite a time.
And I guarantee that finals will be good. I make a promise.
That wasn't any need. I'm absolutely thrilled. I've only seen Madame Arcati 2 or 3 times in the village. I mean, I've never seen her do anything at all peculiar, you know.
Dry martini, by all means. She certainly is a strange woman. 'Twas only a chance remark of the vicar's about seeing her upon the knoll at Midsummer's Eve, dressed in sort of Indian robes that made me realize she was a psychic at all. Then I began to make inquiries. Apparently, she's been a professional in London for years.
It is funny, isn't it? I mean, anybody doing it is a profession.
I believe it's very lucrative.
Do you believe in it, Mrs. Cardinal? Do you really think there's anything genuine about his tale?
Well, I'm afraid not. But I do find it interesting how easily people allow themselves to be deceived.
But she must believe it herself, mustn't she? Or it's the whole business of thing.
I suspect the worst. A real professional charlatan. That's what I'm hoping for, anyhow. The character I'm playing for my book must be a complete imposter. That's one of the more important factors of the whole story. What exactly are you hoping to get from her? Jargon, principally. A few tricks of the trade. I've been to a seance for years. I want to refresh my memory. Then it's not entirely new to you? Oh no. When I was a little boy, an aunt of mine used to come and stay with us. She imagined that she was a medium and used to go off into the most elaborate trances after dinner. My mother was fascinated by it.
Was she convinced?
Good heavens, no! She just naturally disliked my aunt and loved making a fool out of her. I gather there were never any tangible results then. Sometimes she didn't do so badly. On one occasion, when we were all sitting around in the dark with my mother groping her way through Chopin on the piano, my aunt suddenly gave a shrill scream and said that she saw a black dog by my chair. Then someone switched on the light, and sure enough, there it was.
But how extraordinary.
It was obviously a stray I had coming off the street, but I must say, I took off my hat to Auntie for producing it, or rather, utilizing it. Even Mother was a bit shaken.
What happened to it?
It lived with us for years.
I sincerely hope Madame Arcati won't produce any livestock. We've seen very little room in this house.
Do you think she tells fortunes? I learned my fortune telling.
I expect so.
I was told once on the pier at Chelsea that I was surrounded by lilies and a golden seven. It's worrying for days.
We really all must be serious, you know. Pretend that we believe implicitly. Otherwise, the old girl won't play.
Also, she might really mind. It would be cruel to upset her.
I shall be as good as gold.
Have you ever attended her doctor? Professionally, I mean.
Yes, she had influenza in January. She's only been here just over a year, you know, and I must say, she was singularly unsightly then. I've always understood that she was a novice. Oh yes, we originally met as colleagues at one of Mrs. Wilmot's Sunday evenings in Sandgate.
What sort of books does she write?
Two sorts, rather whimsical children's stories about enchanted woods filled with highly conventional foreign fauna, and enthusiastic biographies of minor royalties, very sentimental, reverent, and extremely funny.
Oh, here she is.
She knows, doesn't she? About not. You're not going to just spring it on her? Of course. It was all arranged last week. I told her how profoundly interested I was in anything to do with the occult, and she blossomed like a rose.
I really feel quite nervous. I thought I was going to make a speech.
You go and meet her, darling.
I've let my bike off against that little bush. It'll be perfectly all right if no one touches it.
Madame Arcati, how nice of you to have come all this way.
My dear Madame Arcati.
I'm afraid I'm rather late. I had a certain presentiment that I was going to have a puncture, so I went back and I met you at once. Then, of course, I didn't have a puncture at all.
Perhaps you will on the way home.
Oh, such a friend!
I'm delighted to see you looking so well. This is my wife.
Oh, yes, we're old friends. We meet coming out of shops.
Would you like a cocktail?
If it's a dry martini, yes. If it's a concoction, no. Experience has taught me to be very wary of concoctions.
It is a dry martini.
How delicious. You know, it was wonderful cycling through the woods this evening. I was deafened by bird song.
It's been lovely all day.
But the evening's the time, mark my words. Thank you.
traveling everywhere, Madam Arcadi.
On the contrary, it stimulates me. I was getting far too sedentary in London. That horrid little flat with the dim lights, they had to be dim, you know. The clients expected.
I must say, I find bicycling very exhausting.
Steady rhythm, that's what counts. Once you knack, you never need to look back. On you get and away you go.
But the hills, Madam Arcadi, pushing up those awful hills.
Just knack again, and you're over the top in a flash, and skimming down the other end like a dragonfly. You know, this is the best dry martini I've had in years.
Will you have another?
Certainly. You're a clever man, Mr. Condamine. Anyone can write books, but it takes a true artist to make a dry martini that's dry enough.
Are you writing anything nowadays, Madam Arcadi?
Oh, yes. Every morning, regular as clockwork, from Sundays and morning.
Is it a novel or a memoir?
It's a children's book. We have to finish it before October to catch those Christmas sales. It's about very small animals. The hero is a mosquito. I had to give up my memoir, Princess Peleoton, since she passed away in April. I talked about it with her the other evening, and she implored me to go on, but I really hadn't the heart.
You talked about it the other day.
Through my control, of course. She sounded rather eerie.
It's funny to think of people in the spirit world being irritable. I mean, one can hardly imagine it, can't one?
We have no reliable guarantee that the afterlife will be any less exasperating than this one, can we?
Oh, Mr. Condamine, how can
I expect it's dreadfully ignorant of me not to know, but who was Princess Paleotani?
Oh, well, she was originally a Jewess from Odisca, quite remarkable beauty. It was a known fact that people used to stand on the seats of railway stations to watch her whiz by.
She was a keen traveler then.
In her younger days, yes, but later on she married a Mr. Clark of the consular service and settled down for a while.
But how did she become Princess Paleotani?
Well, that wasn't until years later. Mr. Clark passed over and left her penniless with two strapping girls.
How unpleasant.
So, there was nothing left for her to do but to obey the beckoning finger of adventure. So, off she went, bag and baggage, to the Dover.
Oh, what an extraordinary place to go.
She had cousins there. But it wasn't until then where she met the old Peleotani, who was coming back from a secret service mission in Japan. He immediately fell in love with her stunning beauty, and they got married very soon afterwards. It wasn't until then where her life began to get really interesting.
I should hardly have described it as dull before.
But what happened to the girls?
She neither saw nor spoke to them for 23 years.
How extraordinary.
And not at all. She was always very erratic.
C'est sanft. Thank you, Edith. Shall we?
No red meat, I hope.
Well, there's meat, but I don't think it will be very red. Would you rather have an egg or something?
No, thank you. I just always make it a rule before I work to never eat red meat. It can sometimes have odd effects.
What sort of effect?
Nothing of the least importance. If the meat isn't very red, then it won't matter much. Anyhow, we'll risk it.
Come then, Mrs. Bradman. Madame Arcadi will be on Charles's right. Control.
Yes, they're generally more purple. I mean, some mediums prefer Indians, but I've always found them unreliable.
In what way unreliable?
Well, for one thing, they're frightfully lazy. And when they're faced with any sort of difficulty, they tend to go off in their own tribal language, which is naturally unintelligible. This generally wastes a lot of time and spoils everything, and yes, children are generally more satisfactory, particularly when they've been working with you for a while and know your ways. Like Daphne, she's been working with me for years.
And she still goes on being a child. I mean, she doesn't show any signs of growing any older.
Time values on the other side are utterly different from our own.
Do you feel funny when you go off into a trance?
In what way funny?
Mrs. Bradman doesn't mean funny in its comic implication. I think she meant odd, strange.
The word was an unfortunate choice.
I'm sure. I'm very sorry.
Don't be. It's really okay.
When did you first discover that you had these extraordinary powers?
Well, when I was quite young, my mother was a million before I was, so I had every opportunity of starting on the ground floor of the room. I had my first trance when I was 4, and my first ectoplasmic manifestation when I was 5 1/2. What an extraordinary day that was! I shall never forget it. Of course, the manifestation itself was quite small and a very short duration, but for a child of my tender years, it was most gratifying.
Your mother must have been so pleased.
She was.
Can you foretell the future?
Certainly not. I disapprove of fortune tellers most strongly.
Oh, really? Why?
Too much faith and guesswork mixed up with it, even when the gift is genuine, and only very occasionally is. You can't count on it. Why not? Time again. Time is the reef from which all our frail mystic ships are wrecked.
You mean because it's never yet been proved that the past and the present and the future are not one and the same thing?
Well, I've long ago come to the conclusion that nothing has been definitely proven about anything.
How very wise. Thank you, Edith. Yes, ma'am. I want you to leave the dining room just as it is for tonight. Yes, ma'am. And we don't want to be disturbed for the next hour or so, for any reason whatsoever. Is that quite clear? Yes, ma'am. And if anyone should telephone, tell them we're out and take a message.
Unless it's an urgent call for George.
Unless it's an urgent call for Dr. Brown. Yes, ma'am. There's not likely to be one, is there?
No, I don't think so.
Once I'm off into won't matter, but a disruption during the preliminary stages, that might be disastrous.
I wish the men would hurry up. I'm terribly excited.
Please don't. It makes everything much, much more difficult.
Well, Madam Arcati, the time is drawing near.
Who knows? It might be receding.
How very true.
I hope you feel in the mood, Madam Arcati.
It's not a question of mood. It's a question of concentration.
You must forgive us for being so impatient. We can perfectly easily wait, though, if you're not quite ready to start.
Nonsense. I'm quite ready. I to let me go.
Is there anything you'd like us to do?
Do?
Yes. Hold hands or anything?
That will come later. First, a few deep breaths of fresh air. You may talk if you wish. It won't disturb me in the least.
An excellent dinner, darling. I congratulate you.
The moose wasn't quite right.
It looked a bit hysterical, but it tastes delicious.
That cuckoo is very angry.
I beg your pardon?
I said that cuckoo is very angry. Listen.
How can you tell?
Gibbons, no moon. That's as well. There's a mist rising over the marshes. There's no need for me to light my bicycle lamp, is there? No one will trip over it?
No, we're not expecting anybody else this evening.
Well then, good night, you foolish bird. Do you have a table?
Yes, we thought this one would do.
I think the one with the drinks on it would be better.
Change over.
You told Edith you didn't want to be disturbed.
Yes, darling.
This is a moment I always hate.
So are you nervous?
Yes, when I was a child, I used to always be sick.
How fortunate that you grabbed it.
Children are always much more prone to getting sick than grown-ups, though, aren't they? I know I could never travel on a train with any degree of safety until I was 14.
Little Tommy Tucker sings for supper, but what shall he have but brown bread and butter? I hate that because it doesn't rhyme, but Daphne loves it.
I'm sorry, who is Daphne?
Daphne is Madame Arcadi's control. She's a little girl.
Oh, I see, yes. Oh.
How old is she?
Rising 7 when she died.
And when was that?
February the 6th, 1884.
What was her name?
She must be a bit long in the tooth by now, I should think.
You should think, Dr. Brandon, but I'm afraid you don't. At least not profoundly enough.
Do be quiet, George. You'll call Madame Arcati old.
Oh, don't worry, dear. I'm quite used to skeptics. They generally turn out to be most vulnerable and receptive in the long run.
You better take that warning to heart, Dr. Brown.
Please, forgive me, Madam Arcati. I can assure you, I am most, deeply interested.
Oh, it's of no consequence. Now then, will you all please gather gather around the table and place your hands downward on it.
Come then, Mrs. Bradman.
What about the lights?
Oh, I can handle that myself. Please sit down. The fingers must be touching. That's right. I presume that is the gramophone, Mr. Cardinal?
Yes. Would you like me to start it? It's an electric one.
I can manage. Please just stay where you are. Now then, let me see. Drums. Oh, dear me, no. Rachmaninoff, too florid. Where's the dance music?
Oh, there's some loose ones over there.
Oh, I see.
I'm afraid they're none of them very new.
That's okay. Daphne likes urban Berlin. She likes the tune that she can hum. Oh, here's one. Always.
Always?
Do sit down, Charles. What is the matter?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
The light switch is by the door?
Yes, all except for the small ones on the desk and the gramophone.
Very well, I understand.
Do keep still, Charles.
Fingers touching George, remember Madam McCarthy said.
Now then, before we begin, there are a couple things I'd like to bring up to your attention. So, will you all please listen attentively?
Of course.
Presently, when I turn the music on, I shall then go and turn off the lights. After that, I will either walk about the room or lie down flat. I must ask you not to do anything. Now then, I'll join you at the table in due course and place my hands gently on top of yours. I must ask you not to speak or do anything in the least bit distracting. Is that quite clear?
Perfectly.
Of course, I can't guarantee anything will happen at all. Daphne might be unavailable. She had a head cold quite recently and has been feeling under the weather. Poor child. On the other hand, a great many things might occur, like one of you might have an emanation, for instance, or we might contact the poltergeist, which are extremely destructive and noisy.
In what way destructive?
They throw things. You know.
No, I didn't know.
What? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, mustn't we?
Certainly, by all means.
Fortunately, an elemental at this time of year is most unlikely.
What do elementals do?
Oh dear me, one can never tell. They're dreadfully unpredictable, but they usually take the form of a very cold wind.
I don't think I shall like that.
Sometimes even reaching hurricane velocities.
You don't think it would be a good idea to take the more breakable ornaments off the mantelpiece before we start?
Oh, that won't be necessary, I assure you. I have my own ways of dealing with elementals.
I'm so glad.
Now then, are you ready to empty your mind?
Do you mean we're to try to think of nothing?
Absolutely nothing. Try and focus on a space or nondescript color. That really is the best way.
I'll do my damnedest.
Good work. I shall now start the gramophone. Lights!
Oh dear!
Quiet, please! Is anybody there? Is anybody there? One rap for yes, two raps for no. Now then, is anybody there? Oh, shh! Is that you, Daphne? Is your cold bed here? I'm so sorry. Are you doing anything for it? I'm afraid you've got a freckle. Is there anyone there who wishes to speak to anybody here? Oh, dear me! Oh, stop it! Behave yourself! So you said there was someone there who wishes to speak to someone here. Is it me? Is it Dr. Bradman? Is it Mrs. Bradman? Is it Miss Condamine? Oh, stop that! Behave yourself! Is it Mr. Condamine? Oh, someone wishes to speak to you, Mr. Condamine.
Tell them to leave a message.
Oh, I was really asking not to be thinking, Mr. Condamine.
Charles, how can you be so idiotic? You'll spoil everything.
Sorry, it slipped out.
Can you think of anyone who's passed over recently?
Not recently, except my cousin in the civil service, but he wouldn't be wanting to communicate with me. We haven't spoken in years.
Are you Mr. Condamine's cousin in the civil service? I'm afraid you've drawn a blank. Can you think of anyone else? Rack your brains.
Well, it might be old Mrs. Plummet, you know. She died on Whit Monday.
I can't imagine why old Miss Plummet would wish to speak to me.
It's worth a try, anyhow.
Are you old Mrs. Plummet?
She was very deaf. Perhaps you'd better shout.
Are you old Mrs. Plummet? There's no one there at all.
How disappointing, just as we were getting on so nice.
Be quiet. Be quiet.
Well, I'm afraid there's nothing left for me to do but to go into a trance. I really hope to avoid it because it makes me most exhausted, but what must be, must be. I'll go and start the gramophone.
Not always. Please don't play always.
Why ever not, Charles? Don't be absurd.
I'm afraid I must. It would be imprudent to change horses midstream, if you know what I mean.
Haven't you ever way?
Well, that must be Daphne. She ought to have her adenoids taken out.
Please.
Charles, keep still.
It's trying to get away. I can't hold it.
Press down hard. There now.
Ought we to pick it up and leave it where it is?
How the hell do I know?
There's no need to snap at me.
Please, Atreus.
Who said that?
You said what?
Somebody said leave it where it is.
Nonsense, dear.
I heard it distinctly.
Well, nobody else did they?
I never had a sound.
It was you, Ruth. You're playing tricks.
I'm not doing anything of the sort. I haven't uttered. What do you think, Charles?
Ventriloquism. That's what it is. Ventriloquism.
What is the matter with you?
You must have heard that. One of you must have heard that.
Heard what?
You mean to sit there solemnly to tell me that none of you have heard anything at all? I said that they didn't.
Neither did I. I wish I had. I should love to hear something.
It's you, Charles. You're playing the tricks. You're acting to try to frighten us.
I'm not. I swear I'm not.
It's difficult to think of what to say after 7 years, but I believe good evening is as good as anything else.
Who are you?
Elvira, of course. Don't be silly.
I can't bear this for another minute. Get up, everyone. The entertainment's over.
Charles, how tiresome of you. Just as we were beginning to enjoy ourselves.
Never again. That's all I can say. Never. Never again. As long as I live.
What on earth's the matter with you?
Nothing's the matter with me. I'm just sick of all business, that's all.
Did you hear anything that we didn't hear, really?
Of course not. I was only pretending.
I know you were.
Oh dear, look at Madame McCarthy.
What are we to do with her?
Bring her round. Bring her round as soon as possible.
I think we'd better leave her alone.
Oh, but she might stay like that for hours.
Well, she's all right.
Bring her round. It's dangerous to leave her like that.
Really, Charles, you're behaving most peculiarly.
Wake up, Madame McCarthy. It's time to go home.
Here, go easy, old man.
Get some brandy. Give us some brandy. Lift her into the chair. Healthy brandy. Wake up, Madame McCarthy. Little tiny tucker. Madame
Here's
McCarthy.
the brandy.
Wake up.
She's coming round.
Do be careful, Charles. You're spilling it all down her dress. That's it. What? I'm all right.
Certainly I am. I've never felt better in my life.
Would you like some more brandy?
So that's the funny taste in my mouth. Well, really, Betsy allowing them to give me brandy, Dr. Bradman. You should know better. Brandy on top of a trance? That's quite a bit catastrophic. Put it away. I probably shan't stick to my as is.
I know I shan't.
Why on earth not?
The whole experience has unhinged me.
Well, what happened? Was it satisfactory?
Well, nothing much happened, Madame McCarthy, after you went off.
Well, I know something happened. No poltergeist at any rate. That's a good thing. Any apparitions?
Not a thing.
No ectoplasm.
Well, I'm not quite sure what it is, but I don't think so.
How strange. I feel as though something tremendous has taken place.
Well, Charles pretended he heard a voice in order to try to frighten us.
It was only a joke.
A very poor one, if I do say so myself. Regardless, I'm prepared to say that someone else in this room is psychic, apart from myself.
Well, I don't see how there can be really, Madame McCarthy.
I really hope I haven't gone and released anything. However, we are bound to find out within a day or two, so if you hear any strange noises or anything, you should contact me at once.
Of course, we'll telephone immediately.
Well, I best be on my way now.
Wouldn't you like anything before you go?
No, thank you. I have some Ovaltine in a saucepan at home. It only needs some hotting up.
Wouldn't you like to leave your bicycle here and let us drive you?
I honestly do think you should man my party. I mean, after that trance and everything, you can't be feeling quite yourself.
Nonsense. I'm as fit as a fiddle. I always feel capital after a trance. It rejuvenates me. Good night, Miss Cardinal.
It was awfully sweet of you to take so much trouble.
I'm so sorry so little occurred. It's that cold of Daphne's, I assume. You know how children are, and they get sick. We must try again some other evening.
That would be lovely.
Good night, Miss Bryan.
It was thrilling, it really was. I felt the table absolutely shaking under my hand.
Oh, good night, Doctor.
Congratulations, Madam Arcati.
No, I'm completely aware of the irony in your voice, Doctor. You know, you'd make a great subject for telepathic hypnosis. A good chum of mine, an expert I shall have to look you over.
I'm sure I should be charmed.
Well, good night, everyone. Next time we should really put our backs into it.
Oh dear! Oh dear!
That's mine, she might hate you.
Well, I can't help it. Oh, I really can't. Oh, I've been holding this venting for ages.
She certainly put you in your place, George said. He
Oh, she's raving mad, of course. Mad as a hatter.
But you really think she bleeds?
Of course not! The whole thing is a put-up job. I must say that she shoots a more original line than they generally do.
I should think she's probably half convinced herself by now.
And possibly, the trance was genuine enough, but that, of course, is easily accounted for.
Hysteria.
Yes, a form of hysteria, I should imagine.
I do hope Mr. Contamine was all the atmosphere you wanted for his book.
He might have got a great deal more if he hadn't spoiled everything by showing off. I'm really very cross with him. Oh, I suddenly felt the draught. There must be a window open.
No, they're shut.
Perhaps it was one of those whatchamacallits that Madame McCarthy was talking about?
Elementals!
No, it couldn't be. As she distinctly said, it was the wrong time of year for elementals.
Well, the old girl's gone pelling off down the drive at hell of speed. We had a bit of trouble lighting a lamp.
Whole thing.
I've got a theory about her, you know. I believe she's completely sincere.
Charles, how could you be?
Would it be possible, Doctor, some form of self-hypnotism? Yes, as I was explaining to your wife just now, there are certain types of hysterical...
George, dear, it's getting terribly late. You really must go home. You have to get up so early in the morning.
You see, the moment I begin to talk about anything that really interests me, my wife interrupts me.
You know I'm right, darling. It's past 11.
I'll do a little reading up on the whole business, just for fun of it.
You must have a drink before you go.
Well, really, thank you, pilots. I'm twice, I'm afraid. I have got to get up abominably early tomorrow, because I have a patient being operated on in Canterbury.
It has been a thrilling evening. I shall never forget it. It was very sweet of you to include us.
Good night, Mrs. Condamine. Thank you so much.
You sure about that drink?
Quite sure, thanks.
Well, let you know if you find any poltergeists whirling about.
I should never forgive you if you didn't.
Oh, darling.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Of course. Thank you. Have a lovely. Well, darling,
Well,
would you like to say the evening had been profitable?
yes, I suppose so.
I must say, it was extremely funny at moments.
Yes, it certainly was.
What's the matter?
Matter?
Yes. You seem almost in health. Do you feel quite well?
Perfectly. I think I'll have a drink. Do you want one?
No, thank you, dear.
It's rather chilly in this room.
Over by the fire.
I don't make any notes tonight. I'll start fresh in the morning. My God!
Charles! That was very clumsy, Charles, dear.
Elvira! That is true! It was you!
Of course it was. Charles! Darling, Charles, what's the matter?
You ghost!
I I suppose I must be. It's all very confusing. Charles, what do you keep on looking over there for? Charles, look at me! What's happened to you?
Don't you see?
See what?
Elvira!
Elvira?
Yes! Elvira, dear, this is Ruth. Ruth, this is Elvira.
Listen, Charles, come and sit down.
Do you mean you can't see her?
Now, Charles, just sit down quietly and I'll mix you another drink. Don't worry about the mess that you made. You didn't clean it up in the morning.
But you must be able to see her. She's there. Look, right in front of you, there.
Have you gone mad? What's happened to you?
You can't see her?
If this is a joke, dear, it's gone quite far enough. Now sit down and don't be idiotic.
What am I to do? What the hell am I to do?
I think you might be a little more pleased to see me. After all, you conjured me up.
I didn't do any such thing.
Nonsense, of course you did. That awful child with the cold came to me and told me that you needed to see me urgently.
It was all a mistake. A horrible mistake.
Stop talking like that! As I told you before, the joke's gone far enough.
I've gone mad. That's what it is. That's just what made me mad.
Here, drink this.
This is appalling.
Relax.
How can I relax? I shall never be able to relax as long as I live.
Drink some brandy.
There. Now are you satisfied?
Now sit down.
Why are you so anxious for me to sit down? What good will that do?
I want you to relax. You can't relax standing up. African natives can. They can stand on one leg for hours.
I don't happen to be an African native.
You don't happen to be a what?
An African native.
What's that got to do with
It
it?
doesn't matter, Ruth. It doesn't matter. We'll say no more about it. See, I've sat down.
Would you like some more brandy?
Yes, please.
Very unwise. You always had to be there.
Drink you under the table.
There is nothing to be aggressive, Charles. I'm doing my best to help you.
I'm sorry.
Here. Drink this. And we'll both go to bed. Get rid of it, Charles, then we can talk in peace.
That's a thoroughly immoral suggestion. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
What is there immoral in that?
I wasn't talking to you.
Who are you talking to then?
Elvira, of
To
course.
hell with Elvira. And now she's getting cross.
I don't blame her.
What don't you blame her for?
Oh, God.
Now look here, Charles. I gather you've some sort of plan behind all this. I'm not quite a fool. I suspected you if you were doing that idiotic seance.
Don't be so silly. What plan could I have?
Oh, I don't know. It probably has something to do with the characters in your book. How they or one of them would react in a certain situation. I refuse to be used as a guinea pig unless I'm warned beforehand what it's all about.
Elvira is here, Ruth. She's standing just a few yards from you.
Yes, darling, I can see her distinctly. Under the piano with a zebra.
What's wrong?
I will not argue about this anymore. Hooray!
Shut up.
How dare you talk like that?
Now, Ruth, listen.
I will not listen to any more of this nonsense. I'm going up to bed now. I'll leave you to turn up the lights. I shan't be asleep. I'm too upset. So you can come and say goodnight to me if you feel like it. That's big of her, I must say.
Be quiet. You're behaving like a gutter snipe.
But that is all I have to say. Good night, Charles.
No.
That was one of the most enjoyable half hours I have ever spent.
Oh, Elvira, how could you?
Poor Ruth.
This is obviously a hallucination, isn't it?
I'm afraid I don't know
What am I to do?
what Ruth suggested. Relax.
Where have you come from?
Do you know it's very peculiar, but I'm sorting it often.
Are you to be here indefinitely?
I don't know that either.
Oh, God.
Why? You hated so much of my works.
Well, you must admit it would be embarrassing.
I don't see why, really. It's all a question of adjusting yourself. Anyhow, I think it's horrid of you to be so unwelcoming and disagreeable.
Now look here, Vera.
I do. I think you're mean.
Try to see my point, dear. I've been married to Ruth for 5 years, and you've been dead for 7.
Not dead, Charles. Passed over. It's considered vulgar to say dead from where I come from.
Passed over, then.
At any rate, now that I'm here, the least you could do is make a pretense of being amiable about it.
Of course, my dear. I'm delighted in one way.
I don't believe you love me anymore.
I shall always love the memory of you.
You mustn't think me unreasonable, but I am a little hurt. You called me back and at a great inconvenience I came. And you've been thoroughly churlish ever since I arrived.
Believe me, Elvira, I most emphatically did not send for you. There's been some sort of mistake.
Well, somebody did, and that child said it was you. I remember. I was playing backgammon with this sweet old Oriental gentleman. I think his name was Genghis Khan. I just thrown double sixes, and then the child paged me. And the next thing I knew, I was standing in this room. Perhaps it was your subconscious.
Well, you'd better find out whether you're going to stay here or not. We can make arrangements accordingly.
I don't see how I can.
Well, try to think. Isn't there anybody that you know who you can get in contact over there? On the other side? Or whatever it's called, who could advise you?
I can't think. It all seems so far away as though I dreamed it.
Well, you must know something else besides Genghis Khan.
Charles,
What is it?
I want to cry. I think I need it.
What do you want to cry for?
It's seeing you again and you being so irascible like you always used to be.
I don't mean to be irascible out there.
I don't mind, really. I never did.
Is it cold? Being against?
No, I don't think so.
What happens if I touch you?
I don't think you can. Do you want to?
Oh, Elvira,
That isn't darling.
I really do feel strange seeing you again.
That's better.
What's better?
Your voice was kind.
Was I ever unkind to you when you were alive?
Often.
Oh, how can you? I'm sure that's an exaggeration.
Not at all. You were an absolute pig. That time we went to Cornwall and we stayed in that awful hotel. You hit me with a video cue.
Only very, very gently.
I loved you so much.
I loved you too. No, I can't touch you. Isn't that horrible?
Perhaps it's as well if I'm going to stay for any length of time.
I suppose I shall wake up eventually. I feel strangely peaceful now.
That's right. What's your name?
Like that.
Can you feel it?
Only a very little breeze through my hair.
Well, that's better than nothing.
I suppose if I'm really out of my mind, it puts me into an asylum.
Don't worry about that. Just relax.
Or
To hell.
All surprised?
Have you ever been to Cowden Manor?
No, I'm afraid I haven't.
That's very interesting as well. Strikes you like a blow right between the eyes the second you walk into the drawing room. Oh, 2 lumps of sugar, please, and no milk at all.
I'm profoundly disturbed, Madame Arcati, and I want your help.
I thought as much. Oh, what's in these sandwiches?
Cucumber.
How delicious. Continue.
Well, it's most awfully difficult to explain.
Facts first, explanations afterwards.
It's the facts that are difficult to explain. They're so fantastic.
Facts very often are. Take creative talent, for instance. How do you account for that? Look at Shakespeare and Michelangelo. Try to explain Mozart snatching sounds out of mid-air and placing them down on paper when he was practically a baby. Facts. Plain facts. I know it's the fashion nowadays to ascribe it all to glands, but my reply to that is fiddle-dee-dee.
Yes, I'm sure you're quite right.
There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy, Miss Condamine.
There certainly are.
Well, come on, take the plunge, out with it. You've been hearing strange noises, no doubt. Boards creaking, doors slamming, subdued moaning in the passages. Is that it?
No, I'm afraid it isn't.
No sudden gusts of cold wind, I hope.
No, it's worse than that.
Well, I'm all attention.
Well, I know it sounds idiotic, but the other night, during the séance, something happened.
Aha! I knew it! Probably a poltergeist at any rate. They're extremely cunning. They sometimes lie doggo for days.
You know that my husband was married before.
Yes, I've heard it mentioned.
Well, his first wife, Elvira, died comparatively young.
Where?
Here, in this house, in this very room.
Ooh, I'm beginning to see the daylight.
She was convalescing after pneumonia, and, well, one evening she started laughing helplessly at one of the BBC musical programs, and she died of a heart attack.
And she materialized the other evening after I'd gone.
Well, not to me, but to my husband.
Capital, capital! Oh, but that's splendid!
From your own professional standpoint, I can see how that can be regarded as a major achievement.
A triumph! Nothing more nor less than a triumph!
But from my own personal point of view, it is, to say the least of it, embarrassing.
At last, a genuine materialization!
Now, please sit down again, Madame Arcati.
Sit down? How can I sit down at a moment like this? It's tremendous. I haven't had such success since the Salisbury game.
Nevertheless, I must insist upon you sitting down again and controlling your natural exuberance. I appreciate fully your pride in your achievement, but I should like to point out that it has made my position in this house untenable and that I hold you entirely responsible.
Forgive me, Miss Condamine, I've been abominably selfish. How can I help you?
How? Well, by sending her back immediately to where she came from, of course.
I'm afraid that's easier said than done.
Do you mean to say that she's liable to stay here indefinitely?
Well, it's difficult to say. I'm afraid it depends largely on her.
But my dear Madame Arcati...
Where is she now?
My husband's driven her into Folkestone. Apparently she was anxious to see an old friend of hers who's staying at the Grand.
Forgive this formality, but I must make note of this to the Society for Psychical Research.
I would be very much obliged if there were no names mentioned.
The report will be confidential.
This is a small village, you know, and gossip would be most undesirable.
I quite understand. Now then, you say that she is visible to only her husband.
Yes.
Visible only to husband. And audible too, I assume?
Extremely audible.
Extremely audible. Your husband was devoted to her?
I believe so.
Husband devoted.
It was apparently a reasonably happy marriage. I beg your pardon.
Oh, when did she pass over?
7 years ago.
Uh-huh. That means she must have been marked on the waiting list.
Waiting list?
Yes, or else she would have materialized far before then. She must have been marked down for a return visit, but hadn't been able to manage it unless there had been a strong force at work.
Do you mean to say that Charles, my husband, wanted her back all that much?
Possibly, or it might have been her own determination.
Oh, that sounds much more likely.
Oh, would you say that she's a woman of strong character?
I don't know, Madame Arcati. I never met her, nor am I particularly interested in how or why she got here. I'm solely concerned on the question of how to get her away again as soon as possible.
I sympathize with you, Miss Condamine. I really do, and my one desire is to help you, but I'm afraid I can't offer any great hopes.
But I always understood that there was some form of exorcising ghosts, some sort of ritual.
Do you mean the old bell and book method?
Oh, yes, I suppose I do.
Poppycock, Miss Condamine. That used to work back in the old days of genuine religious belief, but that's all changed now. I believe it's a decline of faith in the spirit world that's been causing the grave concern.
Has it indeed?
There used to be a time where even a drop of holy water would send a poltergeist scampering undercover, but not anymore. On son lenige d'antan.
Be that as it may, Madame Arcati, but I must beg of you to do your utmost to dematerialize my husband's first wife again as soon as possible.
Well, the time has come for me to tell you, Miss Condamine, that I haven't the slightest idea of how to set about it.
Do you mean to sit here and tell me, having mischievously conjured up this ghost or spirit or whatever she is, and placed me in a hideous position, that you are unable to do anything about it at all?
Honesty is the best policy.
Oh, but it's outrageous! I ought to hand you over to the police!
You go too far, Miss Condamine.
I go too far indeed! Do you realize what your insane amateur muddling has done?
I have been a professional since I was a child. Amateur is the word I cannot tolerate.
It seems to me to be the height of amateurness to evoke malignant spirits and not be able to get rid of them again.
I was in a trance. Anything might happen when I'm in a trance.
Well, all I can suggest is that you go into another one immediately and get this damned woman out of my house.
I can't just go into trances at a moment's notice. It takes hours of preparation. On top of that, I have to be extremely careful of my diet for days beforehand. Today, for instance, I happened to lunch with friends and had pigeon pie. And that, on top of those cucumber sandwiches, would make a trance out of the question.
Well, you'll have to do something.
I can report the whole matter to the Society for Psychical Research at the earliest possible moment.
Will they be able to do anything?
I doubt it. They'd probably send an investigation committee and do a lot of questioning and wall tapping and mumbo-jumbo, and then they'd have an investigation and probably have to go up to London to testify.
It's too humiliating, it really is.
Oh, please don't upset yourself. Nothing can be solved by upsetting yourself.
It's all very fine for you to talk like this, Madame Arcati. You don't seem to have the faintest realization of my position.
Try to look on the bright side.
Bright side indeed. Do you realize if your husband's first wife suddenly appeared from the grave and came to live in the house with you, that you'd be able to look on the bright side?
I resent your tone, Miss Condamine. I really do.
But you most decidedly have no right to. You are entirely to blame for the whole horrible situation.
Kindly remember that I came here the other night on your own invitation.
On my husband's invitation.
I did what I was requested to do, which was to give a seance and establish contact with the other side. I had no idea any ulterior motive was mixed up with it.
Ulterior motive?
Your husband was clearly eager to get in contact with his first wife. If I had known that beforehand, I naturally would have consulted you first. After all, noblesse oblige.
He had no intention of trying to get in contact with anyone. The whole thing was planned in order for him to get material on a mystery story he's writing about a homicidal medium.
Am I to understand that I was only invited here in a spirit of mockery?
Not at all. He merely wanted to take notes on some of the tricks of the trade.
Tricks of the trade? Insufferable! I've never been so insulted in my entire life. I believe we have nothing more to say to each other, Miss Condamine. Good night.
No, please, Madame Arcati, don't
Your
go.
attitude from the outset has been most unpleasant. Some of your words have been discourteous in the extreme, and I should like to say, without umbrage, that if you and your husband were foolish enough to tap in the unseen for paltry motives and in the spirit of ribaltry, then whatever is happening to you is your own fault. And to coin a phrase, as far as I'm concerned, you can stew in your own juice.
Oh, no. Oh, damn.
What on earth was Madame Arcati doing here?
She came to tea.
Did you ask her?
Of course I did.
You never told me you were going to.
You never told me you were going to ask Elvira to live with us.
I didn't.
Yes, you did, darling. It was your subconscious.
What was the old girl so cross about? She practically cut me dead.
I told her the truth about why we invited her here the other night.
That was quite unnecessary and most unkind.
She needed some taking down a bit. She was blowing herself out like a pouter pigeon.
Why did you ask her to tea?
To get me exercised, of course. Oh, dear. I wish I could have a cucumber sandwich. I did love them so.
Is that true, Ruth?
Is what true?
What Elvira said.
You know perfectly well I can't hear what Elvira says.
She said that you got Madame Arcati here to try and get her exercised. Is that true?
We discussed the possibilities.
There's a snake in the grass for you.
You had no right to do such a thing without consulting me first.
I had every right to. The whole situation is impossible, and you know it.
If only you'd make an effort to try and be a little more friendly towards Elvira, we might all have quite a jolly time.
I have no wish to have a jolly time with Elvira.
She's certainly very bad-tempered, Charles. I can't think of why you married her.
She's naturally a bit upset. We must make allowances.
I was never bad-tempered, though, was I, darling? Even when you were beastly to me.
It was never beastly to you.
Where is Elvira at the moment?
In the chair.
Now look here, Elvira. I shall have to go on calling you Elvira, shan't I? I very well can't go on calling you Mrs. Condamine all the time. It would sound too silly.
Well, I don't see why.
Did she say anything?
She said she would like nothing better.
I wish to be absolutely honest with you, Elvira.
Hold on to your hats, boys.
I admit, I did ask Madame Arcati here with a view of getting you exercised, but I should think you'd have done exactly the same thing, wouldn't you?
Well, I shouldn't have done it so obviously.
What did she say?
Nothing. She just nodded and smiled.
Thank you, Elvira. That is generous of you. I would really much rather if there were no misunderstandings between us.
That's very sensible, Ruth. I agree entirely.
I want, before we go any further, to ask you a frank question, Elvira. Why did you really come here? I can't see that you could have achieved anything by it beyond the immediate joke of making Charles into some sort of an astral bigamist.
I came because the power of Charles's love tugged and tugged and tugged at me. Didn't it, my sweet?
What did she say?
She said she came because she wanted to see me again.
She's done that now, hasn't she?
We can't be inhospitable, Ruth.
I've no wish to be inhospitable, but I should just like to have an idea of how long you intend to stay here, Elvira.
I don't know. Oh, I really don't know. Isn't that awful?
She says she doesn't know.
Surely that's a little inconsiderate.
Didn't the old spiritualist have any constructive ideas about getting rid of me?
What did Madame Arcati say?
She said she couldn't do a thing.
Hooray!
Don't be upset, Ruth, dear. We shall soon adjust ourselves, you know. You must admit it's a unique experience. I can see no valid reason why we can't get a great deal of fun out of it.
Fun? Charles, how can you... Oh, God, you must be out of your mind.
Not at all. I thought I was at first, but I must say, I'm beginning to enjoy myself.
Oh, Charles! Charles, oh...
Has she broken out again?
You really must not be so careless, Elvira. Try to see her point a little.
I suppose she said something insulting.
No, dear, she didn't do anything of the sort.
Now look here, Elvira!
She's over by the window now.
Oh, why the hell can't she stay in the same place?
Temper again, my poor Charles. What a terrible life you must lead.
Do shut up, darling. You'll only make everything worse.
Who was that darling addressed to, her or me?
Both of you.
This is intolerable.
Oh, for heaven's sake, don't get into another stage.
I've done my level best to control myself ever since yesterday morning, and I'm damned if I'm going to do it anymore. The strain is too much. She has the advantage of being able to say whatever she pleases without me being able to hear her. Oh, but she can hear me all right, can't she? Without any mortified interpreting.
Mortified interpreting? I don't know what you mean.
Oh, yes, you do. You haven't told me once what she's really said. You wouldn't dare. Judging from her photograph, she's the type to use the most unpleasant language.
Ruth, you're not to talk like that.
I've been making polite conversation all throughout dinner last night and breakfast and lunch today, and it's been a nightmare, and I won't do it anymore. I don't like Elvira any more than she likes me, and what's more, I'm certain I never could have, dead or alive, if, since her untimely arrival here the other evening, she had shown the slightest sign of good manners, the slightest sign of breeding. I might have felt differently towards her, but all she's done is try to create private jokes with you against me. I'm going up to my room now, and I shall have my dinner on a tray. You and she can have the house to yourselves and joke and gossip to your heart's content. But in the morning, I'm going up to London to interview the Psychical Research Society. And if they fail me, I'm going straight to the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Ruth! It's unlike her to behave like this. She's generally so equable.
No, she isn't. Not really. Her mouth gives her away. It's a hard mouth, Charles.
Her mouth's got nothing to do with it. I resent you talking about Ruth as if she were a horse.
Do you love her
Of course I do.
as much as you loved me?
Don't be so silly. It's all entirely different.
I'm so glad. Nothing could have ever been quite the same, could it?
You always behaved very badly.
Charles.
I am grieved to see that your sojourn in the other world hasn't improved you in the least.
Go on, Charles. I love it when you pretend to be cross with me.
I'm now going up to talk to Ruth.
Cowardly custard.
Don't be idiotic. I can't let her go like that. I must be a little nice and sympathetic towards her.
If she's set on being disagreeable, I should just let her get on with it.
The whole business is very difficult for her. We must be fair.
She should learn to be more adaptable.
She probably will in time. It's all been a shock.
Has it been a shock for you too, darling?
Of course it has. What did you expect?
A nice shock?
What do you want, Elvira?
Want? I don't know what you mean.
I seem to remember that whenever you were overpoweringly demure, it usually meant that you wanted something.
Nonsense, Charles. It's so horrid of you to be so suspicious. All I want is to be with you.
Well, you are.
I mean alone, darling. If you go up and pamper Ruth and swarm her over, she'll come flouncing down again, and our lovely evening together will be spoiled.
You're incorrigibly selfish.
Well, I haven't seen you for 7 years. It's natural that I should want to spend a little time alone with you, to talk over old times. All right, I'll let you go for a little while if you really feel that it's your duty.
Of course it is.
Then I don't mind.
You're disgraceful, Elvira.
You'll come down soon again, won't you?
I shall probably dress for dinner while I'm upstairs. You can read the Tatler or something.
No, darling, you don't have to dress for me.
I always dress for dinner.
What are you going to have? I should like to watch you have something really delicious.
Be a good girl now. You can play the gramophone if you'd like.
Thank you, Charles.
Does it show any signs of clearing?
No, it's still pouring.
I do sympathize with you, really I do. It has been quite the chapter of accidents, hasn't it?
It certainly has.
That happens sometimes, you know. Everything seems to go wrong at once, exactly as though there were some evil forces at work. I remember once when George and I went away for a fortnight's holiday, not long after we were married. We were dodged by bad luck from beginning to end. The weather was vile, George sprained his ankle. I caught a cold and had to stay in bed for 2 days. And to crown everything, the lamp fell over in the sitting room and set fire to the treatise George had written on hyperplasia of the abdominal glands.
How dreadful.
He had to write it all over again, every single word.
You're sure you wouldn't like a cocktail or a sherry or anything?
No, thank you, really not. George will be down in a minute, and we've got to go like lightning. We're supposed to be at the Wilmots at 7, and it's nearly that now.
I think I'll have a little sherry. I feel I need it.
Don't worry about your husband's arm, Mrs. Condamine. I'm sure it's only a sprain.
It's not his arm I'm worried about.
And I'm sure Edith will be up and about again in a few days.
My cook gave notice this morning.
Well, really, servants are awful, aren't they? Not a shred of gratitude. At the first signs of trouble, they run out on you like rats leaving a sinking ship.
I can't feel that your simile was entirely fortunate, Mrs. Bradman.
I didn't mean it like that. Really, I didn't.
Nothing to worry about, Mrs. Condamine. It's only a slight sprain.
I'm so relieved.
He made a good deal of fuss when I examined it. Men are much worse patients than women, you know, particularly highly strung men like your husband.
Is he highly strung, do you think?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, I've wanted to talk to you about that. I'm afraid he's been overworking lately.
Overworking?
He's in a rather nervous condition. Nothing serious, you understand.
What makes you think so?
Oh, I know the symptoms. Of course, the shock of his fall might have something to do with it, but I certainly should advise a complete rest for a couple of weeks.
You mean he ought to go away?
I do. In cases like that, a change of atmosphere can work wonders.
I see. What symptoms did you notice?
Oh, nothing to be unduly alarmed about. a certain air of strain, an inability to focus his eyes on the person he is talking to, a few rather marked irrelevancies in his conversation.
Can you name any specific example?
Well, he suddenly shouted, "What are you doing in the bathroom?" And then, a little later, when I was writing him a prescription, he suddenly said, "For God's sakes, behave yourself!"
How extraordinary.
But he often goes on like that, particularly when he's immersed in writing a book.
I am not in the least bit perturbed about it, but I do think a rest and a change would be a good idea.
Thank you, Doctor. Will you have a little sherry?
No, thank you. We really must be off.
How's poor Edith?
She'll be all right in a few days. She's still recovering from her concussion.
It is funny, isn't it? That both your housemaid and husband should fall down on the same day, isn't it?
Yes, if that sort of thing amuses you.
Of course I didn't mean it like that, Mrs. Condamine.
Come along, Violet, my dear. You're talking too much as always.
You are horrid, George. Goodbye, Mrs. Condamine.
Goodbye.
I'll pop in and have a look at both patients sometime tomorrow morning.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Oh, well, how does it feel?
All right.
It's only a slight sprain, you know.
Is this damned sling really essential?
It's a wise precaution. It will prevent you from using your left hand except when it's truly necessary.
I had intended on driving into Folkestone this evening.
And it would be much better if you didn't.
It's extremely inconvenient.
You can easily wait and go tomorrow, Charles.
I can't spend another of those dreary evenings at home, Charles. It'll drive me dotty, and I haven't seen a movie for 7 years.
Let me be the first to congratulate you.
What's that, old man?
Charles, dear, try to be sensible, I implore you.
Sorry, I forgot.
You can drive the car if you promise to go slowly and carefully. Your gear change is on the right, isn't it?
Yes?
Well, use your left hand as little as possible.
All right.
You'd much better stay at home.
Couldn't you drive him in?
Oh, I'm afraid not. There's lots to do in the house, and there's Edith to be attended to.
Well, all right, I'll leave you to fight it out amongst yourselves. But if you do insist on going, carefully does it. The roads are very slippery anyhow. Come along, Violet.
Goodbye again. Goodbye, Mr. Condamine.
Goodbye.
You're very irritating, Elvira. Surely you could wait and go to the movies another evening. Oh, and stop behaving like a schoolgirl. You're old enough to know better.
What?
I was talking to Elvira.
She isn't here.
She was a moment ago. She threw a rose at me.
She's been very high-spirited all day. I know this mood of old. It usually meant that she was up to something.
You're sure she isn't here?
Quite sure.
I want to talk to you.
Oh, God.
I must. It's important.
You behaved very well for the last few days, Ruth. You're not going to start making scenes again, are you?
I resent that air of patronage, Charles. I have behaved well, as you call it, because I had nothing better to do. But I think it only fair to warn you that I offer no guarantee for the future. My patience is being stretched to its uttermost.
As far as I can see, the position is just as difficult for Elvira as it is for you, if not more so. The poor little thing comes back trustingly after all those years in the other world, and what is she faced with? Nothing but brawling and hostility.
What did she expect?
Surely even an ectoplasmic manifestation has the right to expect a little of the milk of human kindness?
Milk of human fiddlesticks.
That just doesn't make sense, dear.
Elvira is about as trusting as a puff adder,
Pure granite, Ruth. Sheer, unyielding granite.
and a good deal more dangerous into the bargain.
Dangerous? I haven't heard anything more ridiculous. How could a poor, lonely, wistful little spirit like Elvira be dangerous?
Quite easily, and she is. She's beginning to show her hand.
How do you mean? In what way?
This is a fight, Charles, a bloody battle, a duel to the death between Elvira and me. Can't you realize that?
Melodramatic hysteria.
But it isn't melodramatic hysteria. It's true, can't you see?
No, you're imagining things. Jealousy causes people to have the most curious delusions.
I have been making every effort not to lose my temper with you, Charles, but I must say that you are making it increasingly difficult for me.
All this talk of battles and duels.
She has one purpose, and one purpose only, and if you can't see that, you're a bigger fool than I thought of you.
What purpose could she have had beyond a natural desire to see me again? After all, you must remember that she was extremely attached to me.
Her purpose is perfectly obvious, and it's to get you to herself forever.
That's absurd. How could she?
By killing you off, of course.
Killing me off? You're mad.
How do you suppose Edith fell down the stairs and nearly cracked her skull?
What's Edith got to do with it?
The whole top of the stair was covered in axle grease. Cook discovered it afterwards.
You're making this up, Ruth.
Well, but I'm not. I swear I'm not. How do you suppose when you were lopping that dead branch off the pear tree that the ladder broke? It had practically been sawn through on both sides.
Well, why would she want to kill me? I could understand her wanting to kill you, but why me?
If you were dead, Charles, it'd be her final triumph over me. She'd have you all to herself on her damned astral plane, and I'd be left high and dry. She's probably planning some sort of spiritual remarriage. I wouldn't put anything past her.
Ruth!
Don't you see now?
She couldn't be so sly, so wicked. She couldn't.
Couldn't she just?
I grant you that as a character, she was always light and irresponsible, but I would never believe her capable of such low cunning.
Perhaps the spirit word has deteriorated her.
Oh, Ruth.
Stop looking at me like a wounded spaniel and concentrate. This is serious.
What are we to do?
We are to act like we don't suspect a thing, behave perfectly ordinarily, as though nothing had happened. I'm going up to Madame Arcati immediately. I don't care how cross she is, she's got to help us. Even if she can't get rid of Elvira, she's got to know some technical method of rendering her harmless. If a trance is necessary, then she shall go into a trance, even if I have to beat her into it. I'll be back in half an hour. Tell Elvira I've got to see the vicar.
This is appalling.
Never mind that. Remember now, don't give yourself away by so much as a flick of an eyelid.
Look out!
What?
I merely said it's a nice lookout.
What's a nice lookout?
The weather, Elvira. The glass is going down and down and down. It's positively macabre.
At this particular moment, I find it difficult to believe that you and Ruth can't find anything more interesting than to talk about than the weather.
I can't put up with this anymore. I really can't.
Now, Ruth, please.
Has she broken out again?
Now look here, Elvira. Charles and I were not talking about the weather, as you so shrewdly suspected. I should loathe you to think that we had any secrets from you. And so, I will explain exactly what Charles and I were talking about. I was trying to persuade him not to drive you into Folkestone this evening. It would be bad for his arm, and, well, you can perfectly wait until tomorrow to go. However, as he seems to be determined to place your wishes before mine in absolutely everything, I have nothing further to say. I'm sure I hope you both enjoy yourselves.
There now.
Oh, Charles, have you been beastly to her?
No, Ruth doesn't like being thwarted any more than you do.
She's a woman of sterling character. It's a pity she's so ungiving.
As I think I mentioned before, I would rather not discuss Ruth with you. It makes me uncomfortable.
All right, I won't mention her again. Now, are you ready?
For what?
To go to Folkestone, of course.
I want a glass of sherry first.
I don't believe you want to take me at all.
Oh, of course I want to take you. But I still think it would be more sensible to wait until tomorrow. It's a filthy night.
How familiar this is.
In what way familiar?
All through our married life, I only had to suggest something for you to start immediately hedging me off.
I'm not hedging you off. I merely said...
All right. We'll spend another cozy, intimate evening at home with Ruth sewing away at that hideous table center and snapping at us like a terrier.
Ruth is perfectly aware that the table center is hideous. It happens to be a birthday present for her mother.
It's no use defending Ruth's taste to me. It's thoroughly artsy-craftsy, and you know it.
It is not artsy-craftsy.
She has absolutely ruined this room. Look at the curtains and that awful shawl on the couch.
Lady McCandley sent it to us from Burma.
Only because it had been sent to her from Birmingham.
If you don't behave yourself, I shan't take you to Folkestone ever.
Okay, Charles, it's no use being elderly and grand with me. Let's go now.
Not until I've had my sherry.
You are tiresome, darling. I've been waiting about for hours.
A few more minutes won't make any difference then.
Oh, very well.
Besides, the car won't be back for half an hour at least.
What?
Ruth's taken it. She had to go and see the vicar.
What do you mean?
What's the matter?
You say Ruth has taken the car?
Yes, but she won't be gone long.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Elvira!
Stop her! You must go and stop her at once.
Why? What for?
Stop her! Go out and stop her immediately!
It's too late now. I heard her go a couple of minutes ago.
No, 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 no!
What are you going on like this for? What have you done?
Done? I haven't done anything.
Elvira, you're lying.
I am not lying. I have nothing to lie about.
What do you need such a state for?
I am not in a state. I don't know what you mean.
You've done something dreadful.
Don't look at me like that, Charles. I haven't done anything.
My God, the car!
No, Charles, no.
Ruth was right. You did want to kill me. You've done something to the car.
No. Oh, no.
What did you do?
No.
Answer me! Hello? Hello? Yes? Speaking? I see. At the bridge at the bottom of the hill? No, I'm here. Thank you. No, I'll come at once.
Well, of all the filthy down-low tricks. Oh! Oh, stop it! Stop it, Ruth! No! Ruth! Ah! Leave! Go, Ruth! Ah!
I hope you won't consider this an intrusion, Mr. Condamine.
Not at all. Please, sit down, won't you?
Thank you.
Would you like some coffee or a liqueur?
No, thank you. I had to come, Mr. Condamine.
Yes?
I felt a tremendous urge, like a rushing wind, so I hopped on my bike, and here I am.
It was very kind of you.
No, not kind at all. It was my duty. I know it strongly.
Duty?
You know, I reproached myself bitterly.
Please don't. There's no necessity for that.
I allowed myself to get into a huff with your late wife. I rode home on my bike in the grip of temper. I regretted it ever since.
My dear Madame Arcati.
No, please, let me go on. Mine is the shame. Mine is the blame. I shall never forgive myself. Had I not been so impetuous, had I just listened to the cool voice of reason, so much might have been averted.
You told my wife distinctly that you were unable to help her. You were perfectly honest. Over and above the original unfortunate mistake, I see no reason for you to reproach yourself.
I threw up the sponge. In a moment of crisis, I threw up the sponge instead of throwing down the gauntlet.
Whatever you threw, Madame Arcati, I very much fear nothing could have been done. It seems that circumstances have been a little too strong for us all.
I cannot allow myself to admit defeat so easily. It's all gall and wormwood to me. Had I just concentrated, made an effort.
Never mind.
No, I mind. I cannot help it. I mind with every fiber of my being. You know, I've been doing a lot of careful thinking. I've also been doing a great deal of reading the past few dreadful days. I gathered that we're alone.
My first wife isn't in the room. She's lying down. The funeral exhausted her. I imagine that my second wife is with her, but of course I have no way of knowing for certain.
So, you've remarked no difference in the texture of your first wife since the accident?
No, she seems as much as usual. A little under the weather, perhaps. A trifle low-spirited, but that's all.
Well, that washes that out.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Just a little theory I had. In the 19th century, it was a widespread belief that a ghost who had participated in the death of a human would be disintegrated automatically.
How did you know that Elvira was in any way responsible for Ruth's death?
Elvira. Such a pretty name, isn't it? Has a definite lilt to it. Elvira. Elvira.
You haven't answered my question. How did you know?
It came to me last night, Mr. Condamine. It came to me in a blinding flash. I had just finished my Ovaltine and turned out the lights when all of a sudden I started up in bed. Great Scott, I said, I've got it. After that, I began to put two and two together. So at 3 a.m., with my brain rather seething, I got to work on my crystal, but it wasn't satisfactory. Cloudy. You know.
I would be very much obliged if you'd keep any theories regarding my wife's death to yourself, Madame Arcati.
My one desire is to help you. I feel I've been dreadfully remiss over the whole situation. Not only remiss, but untidy.
I'm afraid there is nothing whatever to be done.
Oh, but there is. Here, I found a formula. I copied it out of Edmondson's Witchcraft and its byways.
What the hell are you talking about?
Pluck up your heart, Mr. Condamine. All is not lost.
Now look here, Madame Arcati.
You said you're anxious to dematerialize your first wife now, aren't you?
Yes, of course I am. I'm perfectly furious with her. But...
But what?
Well, she's been pretty upset for the last few days. You see, apart from me being angry with her, which she always hated, even when she was alive, Ruth, my second wife, has never left her side a moment. You must realize that she's been having a pretty bad time, what with one thing and another.
Your delicacy of feeling does you credit, Mr. Condamine, but I must say, if you'll forgive my bluntness, you're a damned fool.
You are at liberty to think whatever you please.
Now, let's not get on our high horse here. There's no sense in that, is there? I have a formula here that will dematerialize your first wife without hurting her feelings in the least. It's extremely simple. All it takes is complete concentration from you and a minor trance from me. I might even be able to manage it without lying down.
Honestly, I would rather we...
Charles.
Oh! What on earth's the matter?
Oh, what's she doing here?
She came to offer me her condolences.
They should have been congratulations.
Please don't say things like that, Elvira. It's in the worst possible taste. Madame Arcati, allow me to introduce my first wife, Elvira.
Oh, how do you do?
What's she doing here, Charles? Send her away.
In what part of the room is she at the moment?
She's moving about rather rapidly. I'll tell you when and where she settles.
She's the one who's got me here in the first place, isn't she?
Yes.
Well, tell her to get on with it. I won't stand in this house another minute.
Really, Elvira? I'm surprised at you.
I don't care how surprised you are. I won't tolerate this any longer.
Don't be childish, Elvira.
I am not being childish. I mean it.
Oh, how gracious. Oh, I smell ectoplasm strongly.
What a disgusting thing to say.
Where is she now?
Here, close to me.
Are you happy, my dear?
Tell the silly old bitch to mind her business.
Was the journey difficult? Are you weary?
She's dotty.
Just a moment. Madame Arcati.
This is so wonderful.
Tell her to go into the other room, Charles. I've got to talk to you.
Madame Arcati.
Just a moment. I've almost established contact. I can sense the vibrations. This is wonderful.
Go on, Elvira. Don't be a spoil sport. Give her a bit of encouragement.
If you promise to get her into the other room.
All right.
Yes. Again. How's that? Oh, this is first rate. It really is first rate.
I'm so glad you're pleased.
Get rid of her, Charles. Ruth will be in a minute.
Madam Arcati, would you think it's most frightfully rude if I asked you to step into the dining room for a moment? My first wife wishes to speak to me, alone.
Oh, must I? It's so lovely actually being in the room with her.
Only for a few minutes. I promise she'll be here when you get back.
Very well. Grab my bag, will you? It's on the couch.
I'll get it.
Oh, you darling, you absolute darling.
How good is she really?
I don't know.
Do you think she could really get me back again?
But my dear child.
Don't call me your dear child. It's smug and supercilious.
There's no need to be rude.
This whole thing has been a failure. A miserable, dreary failure, and oh, what high hopes I started out with.
Well, you can't expect much sympathy from me, you know. I'm perfectly aware that your highest hope was to murder me.
Well, don't put it like that. It sounds so beastly.
It is beastly. It's one of the beastliest ideas I've ever heard.
There was a time when you'd have welcomed the chance of being with me forever and ever.
Your behavior has shocked me immeasurably, Elvira. I had no idea you were so unscrupulous.
Oh, Charles.
Oh, stop crying.
They're only ghost tears. They don't mean anything really, but they're rather painful.
You've brought all this upon yourself, you know.
That's right. Rub it in. Anyhow, it was only because I loved you. The silliest thing I ever did in my entire life was to love you. You were always unworthy of me.
That remark comes perilous. Impertinence, Elvira.
I sat there on the other side just longing for you, day after day. I really did. All throughout that affair with that brassy-looking woman in the south of France, I went on loving you and thinking truly of you. And then you married Ruth. And even then I forgave you because I tried to understand that you really loved me best. That's why I put myself down for a return visit and filled out all those forms and waited about 4 hours in those draughty passages. If only you died before you met Ruth, everything might have been all right. She has absolutely ruined you. I hadn't been in the house a day before I realized that. Your books aren't a quarter as good as they used to be either.
That is entirely untrue. Ruth has helped me and encouraged me, which is a damn sight more than you ever did.
That's probably what's wrong with it.
All you ever thought of was going to parties and enjoying yourself.
Why shouldn't I have fun? I died young, didn't I?
You needn't have died at all if you hadn't been idiot enough to go out on the river with Guy Henderson and get soaked to the skin.
So we're back at Guy Henderson again, are we?
You behaved abominably over Guy Henderson, and it's no use pretending that you didn't.
Guy adored me, and anyhow, he was very attractive.
You told me distinctly that he didn't attract you in the least.
You'd have gone through the roof if I told you that he did.
Did you have an affair with Guy Henderson?
I would rather not discuss that with you if you don't mind.
Answer me. Did you or didn't you?
Of course I didn't.
But you let him kiss you, though, didn't you?
How could I stop him? He was bigger than I was.
And you swore to me.
Of course I did. You were always making scenes over nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
You never loved me a bit, really. It was all your beastly vanity.
You seriously believe that it was only my vanity that upset me when you went out in the punt with Guy Henderson?
It wasn't a punt. It was a little launch.
I don't care. It was a 3-mast schooner. You had no right to go.
You seem to forget why I went. You seem to forget that you were making sheep's eyes over that overblown Herodian with the false pearls.
A woman in Cynthia Chevalt's position would hardly wear a false pearl.
Oh, they were practically all she was wearing.
I am pained to observe that 7 years in the equine vaults of eternity have in no way impaired your naive vulgarity.
That was the remark of a pompous ass.
There's nothing to be gained by continuing this discussion.
You always used to say that when you were thoroughly rested.
On looking back on our married years, Elvira, I can see now with horrid clarity that they were nothing but a mockery.
You invite mockery, Charles. It has something to do with your personality. Perhaps a certain seedy grandeur.
Once and for all, Elvira.
Oh, you never suspected it, but I laughed at you steadily from the altar to the grave. All your petty jealousies and your fussing and fummings.
You were feckless and irresponsible and morally unstable. I realized that before we left Budley Salterton.
Only a monumental bore would have a honeymoon at Budley Salterton.
What's the matter with Budley Salterton?
I was an eager young bride, Charles. I wanted glamour and music and romance. All I got were potted palms, 7 hours a day on a damp golf course, and a 3-piece orchestra playing nothing but Merry England.
It's a pity you didn't tell me so at the time.
I did, but you wouldn't listen. That's why I went out on the moors that day with Captain Bracegirdle. I was desperate.
You had sworn to me that you had gone and see your aunt in Exmouth.
It was the moors.
With Captain Bracegirdle?
With Captain Bracegirdle.
Oh, I might have known it. What a fool I was. What a blind fool. Did he make love to you?
Of course.
Oh, Elvira!
But only very discreetly. He was in the cavalry, you know.
Well, all I can say is that I'm well rid of you.
Unfortunately, you're not.
Oh, yes, I am. You're dead, and Ruth's dead. I shall sell this house, lock, stock, and barrel, and just go away.
I shall have to follow you.
I shall go a long way away. I shall go to South America. You'll hate it there. You're always such a bad traveler.
I shall have to follow you. You called me back.
I did not call you back.
Well, somebody did, and it's hardly likely to have been Ruth.
Nothing in this world was further from my thoughts.
You were talking about me before dinner that night.
I might just as easily have been talking about Joan of Arc, but that wouldn't necessarily mean that I would want her to come and live with me.
As a matter of fact, she's rather fun.
Stick to the point.
When I think about what might have happened if I succeeded in getting you to the other side, it makes me shudder. It does, honestly. It would be nothing but bickering and squabbling forever and ever and ever. At least with Ruth, she'll find her own set and not get in my way.
Oh, so I get in your way, do I?
Only because I was idiotic enough to imagine that you really loved me. And I sort of felt sorry for you.
I am sick of these insults. Please go away.
There is nothing I should like better. I've always believed in cutting my losses. That's why I died.
Of all the brazen sophistry.
Call that old girl in again. Set her to work. I won't tolerate this any longer.
Oh, for heaven's sake, don't snivel.
Call her in. She's got to get me out of this.
I quite agree, and sooner the better. Madam Arcati, would you please come in now?
Is the darling still here?
Yes, she is.
Where? Tell me where.
Over by the table, blowing her nose.
Oh, my dear, my dear.
Stop her frowning on me, Charles, or I shall break something.
Elvira and I are both agreed, Madam Arcati, that she must go home immediately.
Home?
Wherever she came from.
Are you sure she wouldn't like to stay a few days longer while I get everything more organized?
No. I want to go home now.
I can stay with her. I can bring my crystal.
God forbid.
We are both agreed that she must go home immediately. Please strain every nerve, Madam Arcati. Make every effort. You said something about a formula. What is it?
Well, if you insist.
I most emphatically do insist.
Oh, Charles.
Shut up.
It's nothing. I might be able to do this. I can't guarantee anything, you know. I'll try my best, but might not work.
What is the formula?
Oh, it's nothing more than a little verse, really. It fell into disuse in the 17th century. All we need is some pepper and some salt.
There's some pepper and salt in the dining room. I'll get it.
Well, we ought to have a shepherd's wort and maybe a frog or two, but I'm sure I can manage without. You won't be frightened, will you, dear? It's absolutely painless.
Will this be enough?
Oh, yes, I only need a little. And then place it right there. Let me see. Oh, yes, just sprinkle a bit, just a sipson, right in the middle.
This is going to be a flop. I can tell you that here and now.
Now then, a couple of snapdragons from that vase. Well, there's a good chap.
Here you are, Madam Arcati.
Merlin does this sort of thing at parties and Boss is all stiff with it.
Now then, the gramophone. In the old days, we used zithers or reed pipes. We ought to have the same record before, I think.
I'll get it.
Whatever you think best, Madam Arcati.
Oh, if only Dr. Emsworth at the Psychical Research could see that. He'd have a fit. He would really. Well, don't start it yet, dear. Now then, Mr. Condamine, would you please lie down on the sofa and place your hands downward on the table, but don't put your fingers in the pepper now. Oh. Shucks, I'd almost forgotten. One triangle, one half circle, and one little dot. There we go.
This is going to be a failure. She is a complete fake.
Anything's worth trying at this point.
I'm as eager for it to succeed as you are, Charles. Don't make any mistake about that. But I can bet you 10 to 1 that this is going to be a failure.
Now then, would your wife be so kind to lie down on the sofa?
Go on, Elvira.
This is sheer nonsense. Don't blame me if I get the giggles.
Now, concentrate. Think of nothing.
That's right, that's quite right. Arms at the side, legs extended. Steady breathing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Is she comfortable?
Are you comfortable, Elvira?
No.
She's quite comfortable.
I shall join you in a moment. I might have to go into a little trance, but pay no attention. Now then, the gramophone. And away we go!
Oh dear, it's the pepper.
Hold on to yourself, concentrate. Ghostly spectre, ghoul or fiend, nevermore be thou convened. Shepherd's wart and holy rite, banish thee into the night.
What a disagreeable little verse.
Quiet, Elvira.
Shh! Is anybody there? Is anybody there? 1 rap for yes, 2 raps for no. Is anyone there? Oh, is that you, Daphne? Oh, I'm so sorry to bother you, dear, but Miss Condamine would like to return home. Oh, stop that! Did you hear me? Can you help us? Oh, are we trying to get away? Oh my gosh! Oh!
What's happening, Madam Arcati? Are you hurt?
Oh.
Oh dear, oh dear. What's happening, Madam Arcati? Are you hurt?
She's in one of her damn trances, and I'm here as I ever was. Leave her be. She's having a whale of a time.
God's sakes, wake up.
If I ever do get back, I'll strangle that bloody little Daphne.
You're not helping.
What happened?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Oh, yes, it did. I know something happened.
You fell over. That's all that's happened.
Is she still here?
Of course she is.
Something must have gone wrong.
Make her do it right, Charles. I'm sick about being messed about like this.
Be quiet. She's doing her best.
I know something happened. I felt it in my trance. It shivered through me.
Once and for all, Charles, what the hell does this mean? Well, we've done all we can. I must say, I couldn't be more exhausted.
Well, it will be daylight soon.
Oh, that clock's always irritated me. It strikes far too slowly.
It was a wedding present from Uncle Walter.
Who's Uncle Walter?
Elvira's.
Well, all I can say is that he might have chosen something a little more decorative.
If that really were all you could say, Ruth, it would be a great comfort for all of us.
You can be as rude as you like, Elvira. I don't mind a bit. As a matter of fact, I should be extremely surprised if you weren't.
Why?
The reply to that is really too obvious.
I wish you two would stop bickering for 1 minute.
This is quite easily one of the most frustrating nights I've ever spent. The reply to that is obvious, too. I'm sure I don't know what you mean.
Skip it.
Now look here, Elvira. If you and I have got to stay together indefinitely in this house, and it looks unpleasantly likely, then we had better come to some sort of an arrangement.
What kind of an arrangement?
You're not going to stay indefinitely in this house.
With you, then. We shall have to be with you.
I don't see why. Why don't you take a cottage somewhere?
You called us back.
I've already explained until I'm black in the face. I did nothing of the sort.
Madame Arcati said you did.
Madame Arcati is a muddling old fool.
I could have told you that myself.
I think you're behaving very shabbily, Charles.
I don't see what I've done.
We all agree that as Elvira and I are dead, it would be both right and proper for us to dematerialize again as soon as possible. That I admit. But we have allowed ourselves to be subjected to the most humiliating hocus-pocus for hours and hours without complaining.
Without complaining?
We've stood up, we've lain down, we've sat interminably, all while that tiresome old woman recited very unflattering verses at us. We've endured 5 seances. We've watched her fling herself in and out of trances until we're dizzy, and at the end of it all, we find ourselves exactly where we were at the beginning.
Well, it's not my fault.
Be that as it may, but the least you could do is to admit failure gracefully and try to make the best of it. Your manners are boorish to a degree.
I'm just as exhausted as you are. I had to do all the damned table tapping, remember?
If she can't get us back, she can't, and that's that. We shall have to think of something else.
She must get you back. Anything else would be unthinkable.
There's gratitude for you.
Gratitude?
Yes, for all the years that me and Ruth have devoted to you. You ought to be ashamed.
What about all the years I've devoted to you?
Nonsense. We've waited on you both hand and foot, haven't we, Ruth? You're exceedingly selfish and always were.
In that case, I failed to see why you were both so anxious to get back to me.
You called us back, and you've done nothing but try to get rid of us ever since we came, hasn't he, Elvira?
He certainly has.
And now, owing to your idiotic inefficiency, we find ourselves in the most mortifying position. We're neither fish, flesh, nor fowl, nor whatever it is.
Good red herring.
It can't be.
Well, why don't you do something about it? Why don't you go back on your own?
We can't. You know perfectly well we can't.
Isn't there anybody on the other side who can help?
How should I know? I've only been there a few days. Ask Elvira.
Like I told you before, it's no good. If we put Cagliostro, Mesmer, Merlin, Gilderetz, and the Black Douglas in a row, they couldn't do a thing. The impetus has got to come from here. Perhaps Charles doesn't want us to go quite enough.
I certainly do.
Then you have a very weak will. I've always suspected it.
It's no use arguing anymore. Wake up, Madame Arcati.
Please wake up, Madame Arcati.
Shake her.
But it might upset her.
I don't care if it kills her.
Please wake up, Madame Arcati.
What time is it?
5:10.
What time did I go off?
Over an hour ago.
Dear me, forgive me, but I must consult my diary. Are they still here?
Yes.
How disappointing.
Have you any suggestions?
We mustn't give up hope. Chin up, never give in. That's my motto.
All this schoolgirl phraseology is driving me mad.
Now then.
Now then what?
What do you say we have another seance? Put our shoulders to the wheel, make it a real rouser.
Not another seance, please. Not another seance.
I might be able to materialize a trumpet if I tried hard enough. Better that than nothing, you know. I feel as fit as a fiddle after my rest.
I don't care. She materializes a whole symphony orchestra. I implore you to not let her have another seance.
Don't you think, Madame Arcati, that we've had enough of the seances? After all, they haven't achieved much, have they?
Rome wasn't built in a day, you know.
I know it wasn't, but...
Well then, cheer up. Away with melancholy.
Now look here, Madame Arcati. Before you go off into any further trances, I really do think we should discuss the situation a little.
Yes, good idea. And while we're at it, I shall have one of these cucumber sandwiches. I'm as hungry as a hunter.
Would you like some more beer?
No, thank you. Better not.
Very well. I shall have a small whiskey and soda.
Make it a double and enjoy yourself.
One day I intend to give myself the pleasure of telling Madame Arcati exactly what I think of her.
She's been doing her best.
Are the girls getting despondent?
I'm afraid they are, rather.
We'll win through yet. Don't be downhearted.
If we're not very careful, she'll materialize a hockey team.
Well then, Mr. Condamine, the discussion. Fire away.
Well, my wife and I have been talking it over, and they are both absolutely convinced that I somehow or other called them back.
Very natural.
I am convinced that I did not.
Love is a strong psychic force. It can work untold miracles. A true love's call can encompass the universe.
I'm sure it can, but I must confess to you frankly that although my affection for both Ruth and Elvira is of the warmest, I cannot truthfully feel that it would come under the same heading that you describe.
I should just think not indeed.
You might not know your own strength, Mr. Condamine.
I did not call them back, either consciously or subconsciously.
But Mr. Condamine...
That is my final word on the subject.
Neither of them could have been called back unless there had been someone, a psychic subject, who had wished for them.
Well,
Perhaps
it wasn't me.
Well, perhaps it was Dr. Bradman. I never knew he cared.
Are you sure? Are you really sure?
Absolutely positive.
Oh, great Scott! I believe I've been barking up the wrong tree.
How do you mean?
The Sudbury case!
I don't understand.
Oh, I don't expect you to. It was before your time. Oh, I wonder.
What was the Sudbury case?
Well,
I wish you'd explain.
it was only the case that made me famous, Mr. Condamine. It was what you would call in theatrical parlance as my first smash hit. I had letters from all over the world about it, especially India.
What did you do?
Well, I dematerialized old Lady Sudbury, who had been firmly entrenched in a private chapel for over 17 years.
How? Can you remember how?
Chance, a fluke. I happened on it by the merest coincidence.
What fluke? What was it?
Wait, hold on. Who was here the night of our first seance?
Only the Bradmans, Ruth, and me and yourself.
Yes, I thought as much, but the Bradmans weren't here last night, were they?
No.
Quickly, my crystal. Help me look.
Here you are.
Oh, damn the thing. It gives me the pip. It's cloudy again. Oh, it's there. It's there again. I'm beginning to understand.
I wish I was. What's there again?
A bandage. Oh, a white bandage. Hold on to a white bandage.
I haven't got a white bandage.
She's too good, you know. She ought to be in a circus.
Be you in nook or cranny, answer me. Be you in still room or closet, answer me. Be you above the panel, below the stairs, beneath the eaves, waking or sleeping, answer me. Well, that's not to do it, or I'm a Dutchman.
Do what?
Hush, wait.
For God's sake, don't let her throw any more of that garlic about. It nearly made me sick last time.
Would you like the gramophone on, or the lights out, or anything?
No, it's near. It's very near.
Oh, if it's a ghost, I shall scream.
I hope it's nobody we know. I shall feel so silly.
Did you ring, sir?
The bandage! The white bandage!
No, Edith.
Sorry, sir. I could have sworn I heard someone calling. I was asleep. I don't rightly know which it was.
Come here, child.
Oh!
Go on. Go to Madame Arcati. It's quite all right.
Whom do you see in this room, child?
Oh, dear.
Answer, please.
You, ma'am.
Go on.
The master.
Anyone else?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Look again.
Please, sir, I don't understand.
Don't beat about the bush. Look again.
Do concentrate, Elvira, and keep still.
I can't.
Where are they now?
I don't see anyone.
She's lying.
Oh, ma'am.
They always do.
They?
Don't beat about the bush, child. Where are they now?
By the fireplace.
She can see them. Do you mean she can see them?
Probably not very clearly, but enough.
Let me go. I haven't done nothing nor seen nobody. Let me go back to bed.
Give her a sandwich.
I don't want a sandwich. I want to go back to bed.
Here you are, Edith.
Oh, nonsense. A healthy girl saying no to a delicious sandwich? I have never heard of such a thing. Sit her down.
Please, sir,
Please do as Madame Arcati says, Edith.
I haven't done nothing wrong.
It's all right. Nobody said you had.
If she's been the cause of all this unpleasantness, I'll give her a week's notice tomorrow.
You will not be here tomorrow.
Look at me, Edith.
Oh dear, what's the matter with her? Is she balmy?
Look at my finger, Edith. Have you ever seen such a long, long finger? Oh, now it's on the right. Oh, dear me, now it's on the left. Backwards and forwards, it goes very quickly, you see. Backwards and forwards, tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock.
The mouse ran up the clock. Do be quiet, you'll spoil everything.
She's off, all right.
Off?
She's a natural. It's exactly like the Sudbury case. It really is the merest coincidence. Oh, now then, will your wives please stand together?
Where?
Over there, by you.
Elvira? Ruth?
I resent being ordered around like this.
I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I feel peculiar.
I'm afraid I must insist.
It would serve him right if he flatly refused to do anything at all.
Now then, Edith, wake up. Are you sorry for having been so mischievous?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
You know what you must do now, don't you, Edith?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I believe it's going to work, whatever it is. Oh, Charles.
Shh!
This is goodbye, Charles.
Make us stop a moment, Charles. There's something I want to say.
Should have thought of that before. It's too late now.
For the mean ungracious.
Charles, listen a moment.
Lights!
I saw Captain Bracegirdle again several times. We went to the 400 while you were in Nottingham. And I would just like to say that I couldn't have enjoyed it more.
Don't think you're getting rid of us quite so easily, my dear. You may not be able to see us, but we'll be here all right. I consider that you behaved atrociously.
Yes, splendid, I believe it's worked.
Shall I put on the lights?
No, thank you, I can do it.
They've gone! They've really gone!
Yes, I believe we pulled it off this time.
You should wake her up, hadn't you? She might bring them back again.
Wake up, child!
Where am I?
It's all right, Edith. You can go back to bed now.
Why, it's morning.
Yes, I know it is, Edith.
But I was in bed. How'd I get here?
I rang, Edith. I rang the bell and you answered it. Didn't I, Madame Arcati?
Did I drop off? Do you think it's my concussion again? Oh, dear.
Thank you. Off you go now, Edith. Thank you again.
Oh, sir!
What on earth did she mean by that?
Golly, what a night. I'm ready to drop in my tracks.
Would you like to stay here, you know? There's a spare room, you know.
Oh, no, thank you. Each to its own nest. It's only a short pedal away anyways, only 7 miles.
I am deeply grateful to you, Madame Arcati. I don't know what arrangements you generally make, but I'm sure you'll send in your account in due course.
It was my pleasure. I wouldn't dream of such a thing.
But I really do feel that all those trances...
Nonsense. I've thoroughly enjoyed them ever since I was a child.
No.
Perhaps you'll give me the pleasure of lunching with me one day soon.
Oh, yes, when you return, I shall be delighted.
Return?
Take my advice, Mr. Condamine, and leave as soon as possible.
But, Madame Arcati, you don't mean that.
There must be memories of both grave and gay in every corner of this house.
Also what?
There are more things in heaven and earth, Mr. Condamine. Just pack your traps and leave immediately.
Do you mean they still may be here?
Quien sabe, as the Spanish say.
I wonder. I'll take your advice, Madame Arcati, and thank you again.
Good night, Mr. Condamine. It's been fascinating. From first to last, fascinating. Do you mind if I take this sandwich home to munch on my way home?
By all means.
Please, don't strain yourself. I can manage myself. Cheerio once again, Mr. Condamine, and good hunting.
It's not asleep.
Ruth? Elvira? Are you there? Ruth? Elvira? I know damn well you're there. I just want to tell you that I'm going away, so there's no point in your hanging about any longer. I'm going a long way away, somewhere where I don't believe you'll be able to follow me. In spite of what Elvira said, I don't think spirits can travel over water. Is that quite clear, my darlings? You said in one of your more acid moments, Ruth, that I was hag-ridden all my life. How right you were. But now I'm free, Ruth dear, not only of Mother and Elvira and Mrs. Winthrop Llewellyn, but of you too. And I would like to take this farewell opportunity of saying that I am enjoying it immensely. Aha! I thought so. You are very silly, Elvira, to imagine that I didn't know all about you and Captain Bryce-Scuttle. I did. But what you didn't know was that I was extremely attached to Paula Westlake at the time. I was reasonably faithful to you, Ruth, but I doubted if it had lasted much longer. You were becoming increasingly domineering, and there's nothing more off-putting than that, is there? Goodbye for the moment, my dear. I expect we are bound to meet again one day, but until we do, I'm going to enjoy myself as I've never enjoyed myself before. You can tear up the house as much as you like. I'm leaving it anyhow. Think kindly of me. Good thoughts. Nice work, Ruth. Get Elvira to help you persevere. Goodbye again. Parting is such sweet sorrow.